Hey everybody, Steve87th here. Today we're going to go over the build of Sparky's private car. It all started off as an 85-foot Bud observation car with ready to run. Then there was the taping. We got the whole thing taped up so that we could paint it in Conrail colors. Walter said that all you have to do is turn it back and forth a little bit and the top pops right off. Well, I don't know what top pop it off that they were talking about. But anyway, we had some Conrail Model Master paint that I used to do the painting. So here I am airbrushing just the silver dome on the back. I left most of it all aluminum, and I just did kind of the blue striping. So this is the first section of the Conrail paint. It took a while to get it going. You can see that I taped everything up, made sure that I didn't get anything on it, but I still got some overspray because I got a little overzealous a little bit later. And then here we are doing the windows on the side of the car. That came out a lot easier and a lot better. And the paint went on pretty good because it was airbrush paint, so it didn't take that long. Next, I did the interior. I spray painted it Conrail blue for the entire area of it, and later on I went back and added some white and some white stippling that was done on the rugs and so forth to kind of break it up a little bit, to do a little bit of fanciness to it. This was kind of really difficult because you had to get into all these little nooks and crannies to try to get all of the painting done. And you can see here the layout, which comes into a little bit later. It has berthing areas, and then it also has a big lounge area, plus there's a small little kitchen in there. I kind of ran out of time, so I wasn't able to detail too much of the interior of this. But this is the last part of the painting that I had to do, so I just wanted to get it all done so that I could move on to the next section. Okay, so the next part was to wait for a mail call to come in. I got a bunch of ESU parts that came in. So these are capacitors, rail pickup accessories, and then a lighting system that went into the car. So the lighting system itself has rear lights on it. It's the ESU, I forget what the number is right off the top of my head, but it is all LED, and it has detachable sections in it. It comes with red lights. It comes in with 2 red lights. It comes with 2 pickup wires, and then it comes with 11 lights that go inside, which you can break apart and move to different areas. So this was kind of ideal for what I wanted to do. It is also DCC controlled, and within the DCC control, it actually has a couple of more spots. One for the capacitor that we got. There's also a spot in here for an extra light or an extra lighting strip that can be controlled separately or used as like a forward-facing light if you're using a car. There's also another end to add more lights onto this or to add a different power supply from the other side. The whole thing is regulated, so it doesn't matter whether it's AC or DC or what side you attach the wires to, so long as it picks up from the track. So I came up and I had to test fit it in there, make sure to see how it was going to fit, and then I had to drill out that light. That was not a fun job, so that I could put the red light in there. And I only needed one of the red lights. The other thing that I needed to do was locate a way to get the wire down to the truck. And there was already a pre-existing hole, so I just decided I would use that. So my first step that I had to do was to go ahead and check out all the components, read all the directions, and figure out where everything went. The directions for the lighting system from ESU came in. They were in German, so I had to get them go onto their website and find it in English. So this is me explaining that I need to put the red light into that one little hole that's going to be on the back. This was meant to be the trailing light on the actual car. So I didn't need the second red light that came with it because both red lights would have come on at the same time. So I simply just cut that off, but left enough wire and taped up the ends so that there wouldn't be any problem with electrical. The other thing is I had taken a long time to drill out that hole or the tube that was inside the light section, and then stuck the other red light in that light. So now the red LED is actually on that big spotlight that's on the back of the observation car. And that's all taped in. So my next step was to put this into the car, set it all up, make sure that it fit, and that all the wires were in a good place. Okay, so here I am making sure that it all fits up. Yes, the 9-volt battery has a purpose. After I made sure that it lined up and got to where it was going to be at, I wanted to make sure that it at least worked. So I just attached the 2 leads to the 9-volt battery, and as you can see here, the lights are flashing on and off, which means the lights are good, so that's great. I just used double stick tape, 3M double stick tape, to mount the entire board onto the top of the car. So there was one little thing that I didn't do here, which I noticed later after the car got put together. If you noticed in the reveal video, I should have blackened the very, very top to not allow light bleed. So here I am putting it in and getting ready to stick down, and then as soon as I stuck it down, I just realized I did not solder on the capacitors. So I had to take it back off, and I had to go get one set of capacitors and weld it into or solder it into where they needed to go. You can see here it fits kind of tight, so all I had to do was come up and bend the capacitor a little bit onto the side a little bit to edge it up, just to get it so that it would fit snugly inside. I kind of worried that it was going to be seen. After I put it down there, I didn't realize how low it was going to go down. So I also, after fitting it in, you can see all the blue tape that I used. I did a test fit real quick to see kind of where that was going to be at. Found out that I had to move it a little bit. So along with the test fit, I came up and I said, oh, I better see if there's anything in the way inside the car with the interior. So I got it in there, and you really couldn't see where the capacitor was at. So moving on to the next part was the wiper wheels. So these were 4 sets of wipers, but I decided I was only going to use 1 set of wipers because I put the capacitor in there. Plus, it would have been really tough to get it on the different sets of the wheels. I chose to use the back wheel settings because it had the coupler body mounted instead of the coupler mounted on the wheel, which the side that actually connects to the rest of the train had it at. So remember, this is meant to be an end of train car, right? It's going to be on the end. So I looked around for a few bits. Yes, I did paint the bottom of this black. And I wound up screwing this down to find out how well it was gonna fit down in there. So there's like 5 screws that held this together, but I found out that there was one spot that I could utilize the screw hole, and I just left that hole open. So here I am putting on the wheel sets. You can see that there's little screws all over the place in this. So I wanted to make sure that I got them all in the right areas to keep the interior intact. And then I believe, let's just see. Yep, got most of them. You can see that there's holes in the kitchen area and so forth to put it all back together. So this is the end of the train that hooks up to the end of the train. right? So I got those wheel sets in there, made sure that it was nice and loose, and went ahead and fastened those wheels in. Once those wheels were attached, I didn't want to worry about them anymore. They were done. I wasn't going to do any power with them or anything like that. So I had to make sure that they worked well. And then I came over to the other set. So here I'm fitting up the wipers to make sure that the wipers go onto the wheel set and which way they go on. The instructions just said glue it onto the actual wheel set, so I had to figure out the best way to do it. I decided that it would fit on the rearmost axle the best, just to make it nice and easy. It actually also had a nice little area that I could glue the wipers to. So I pre-fitted up a few times, spread the wipers out a couple more times so that I could actually get it into the wheel basing. The good thing is you really can't see them, and the wipers work pretty good when you'll see with the test later. So a few more times of fitting, made sure that the wipers were as far as they were, and then the install begins. All right, so to fasten this in place, they said just use super glue. So I used some this local type of cyanoacrylic, put it on in there. It took a little bit of time for it to dry. And also to try to get it into the spot, of course, because you have to make sure that there's the tension on the two wheels, as well as setting it up in the middle so that it actually held on. Hopefully this will hold for Sparky for a while. The next thing that I did was I decided to put in micro connectors. Since this was going to be attached to the wheels, there needed to be some way to get the top entirely off if you needed to service it for some reason or other. So I decided that I would put in micro connectors to the power feeds. The hole that the screw was going into worked perfectly. It was right up next to a bench. So I decided that I would just have a black pole in the middle of the dining car, which kind of worked out. So there was a hole that was already there. It took me a while to get the wires actually through. I actually had to use a bigger screwdriver, a bigger drill to get them all in. So once I got them all in there, I was able to pull the wires through and put the truck back on. And then I went and proceeded to glue the bottom half of the micro connector in so that it would be easy to pull it in and out without it being disturbed and pulling the wires out, because this was going to be a very, very short feed wire. There was just enough for the truck to be able to move back and forth, and to ensure that there was a good contact between. So then came the fun part. After setting all up and figuring out where the wires were going to go and how I was going to connect them, it was time to solder in there. The nice thing was it was fairly easy. I was able to get in there with some tiny Q-tips that I have. We cut the wire down to where it needed to be. I got the flux out, and I put flux on both the wires and on the actual terminals that were in the wipers. Again, it didn't matter whether it was positive or negative, negative or positive. It just needed to go on there, as a DCC decoder actually had a rectifier in it that would set the actual power ratings wherever it needed to be at. So I came in there. I had a little bit of issue bending the wire correctly so that it would sit in the area that it needed to be at. Had to get in there with some tweezers to hold the wire in place while I just hit it with the soldering iron. Got the solder wet and left the wire in the puddle of solder. Okay, so it was fairly easy. I wasn't quite 100% happy with the connection, so I did a little bit more to push it down. That's why you see me hitting it a couple more times. The first connection was pretty good, but I wanted a solid connection since it was going to be there for a while. I decided to glue that first connector right. So now the soldering was all in. Really nice, I was able to go ahead and put in the micro switch, because I soldered that onto the power feed lines. So now the next question is, to the power feed line. So now I'm actually gluing the micro switch, the micro connector in to its position in the car so that we can hook it up. Once that was all done, I hooked up the micro connector to the other side, made sure that all of the connections were great. This is me doing the connections together and then making sure that we have a nice tight finish on it. I wrapped it all up in tape, and we were ready to go. we are here at testing time. So this is actually DCC. So it picks up track current and is run off of the DCC current. You can see right now, I didn't have the rear track on. For some reason, this was off a little bit. I didn't put the container down all the way because I'm testing it. So, looking at what I've got. So if you do function 0, I'll put you guys, you can see that red thing right there. Function 0 turns it off. Function 0 turns it back on. How cool is that? Now, also, let's, I'm going to take this so that you guys can see a side view of the train. See how many lights we can get in there. I'm kind of doing this on the layout. So now the lights themselves have switches as well. So F2 is supposed to control all of them, but it seems like they just stay on. I got one set of lights that's being the butt. So F3 will turn off one set of lights. You can see how those dimmed. I know my face is in this whole thing because I'm trying to look at it too. Okay. F4 turns off another section. Should have. And F5 turns off another section. Oh, F4 turns off that section. And then F6 turns off the last section. And then there's still light all the way down over here, which is, yep, F7. Turns off all of the lights. F2 should turn all of the lights back on again. Okay, it dims them and turns them on and turns them off. So you individually control the lights. So we'll go back through F3. Here, let me turn it on this way so you guys can see it and not see me. So there's the F3. There's F4, F5, F6, and F7. So it's kind of cool because if you've got, since this is a sleeping car and all that, you could turn off F6, F5, and then you could still have the lounge area open and the back area open. So that looks really kind of cool. And then if everybody's awake or whatever and they're cleaning, you can turn on those, turn off that set of lights, which is the kitchen lights, which was 3. You can turn off F3 and F4, and you can have the observation car dark while everything else has got lights back here. That is pretty cool. And again, the fact that we can go through and see the light in the back and it turns on and turns off. It's got one little thing that I got to do. I see that happened up here. I didn't notice that I kind of broke through the paint, so we got to touch that back up again and we'll be fine. So that's what I wanted to do. So this is kind of a reveal for the car. It's not all done, but it is the Conrail SP 107107. You come down here. It's the Greely Sparky car. Conrail. And with the Conrail logo on the back. Okay. So all of this was to build a special car for Sparky 107107, and this is his Conrail business car. So there you have it. That was one of the 2 special builds. So thanks for watching and putting up with everything, and we will see you again later.